Hey, what's up guys, DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Shiranui deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because I've changed up this deck a lot since the last time I profiled it, especially with all of the new zombie support we've been getting recently. This deck is extremely fun to be able to play because you can actually synchro summon using your zombies in the graveyard, which is absolutely amazing. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Shiranui Solitaire. This card is a great card in the deck. It has the ability that you can tribute a zombie type monster to special summon out a zombie type tuner monster with 0 defense from your deck, which is a great effect to be able to get copies of Unizombie on your side of the field so you can start going into all sorts of amazing combos. This card also has the ability that if this card is banished, then you can target one of your banished Shiranui monsters and special summon it back to your field, which is a great effect just to get you an additional monster on the field. We then play 2 copies of Shiranui Squire, which is a great normal summon in the deck that has the ability that when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon out a Shiranui Spectral Sword monster from your hand or deck. And also, if this card is banished, you can draw a card and then discard a card. But the only downside of this card is that it does lock you into summoning zombie monsters for the rest of the turn. We then play just a single copy of Shiranui Spirit Master. Spirit Master is a really good card, but you only really need a single copy of this card because it has the ability that when it's normal summoned, then you can special summon out a Shiranui monster from your hand or graveyard. So you have to have your graveyard set up to make this card really, really good. But it is a great one of in the deck because if this card is banished, then you can target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it, which is a pretty good effect just to pop a card on the field. We then play 2 copies of Shiranui Spectral Sword. Spectral Sword is a really, really good tuner in the deck. It has the ability, if this card is in the graveyard, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, then you can target a non-tuner zombie type monster in your grave and banish both it and this card. And if you do, you get to special summon out a zombie type synchro monster from your extra deck whose level equals the total of the 2 monsters that you banished for this card's effect, which is a really good effect to be able to special summon out all sorts of insanely powerful zombie synchro monsters. We then play a single copy of Shiranui Spectral Sword Shade. I play just a single copy of this card because it does take a little bit of setup to play this card because it has the ability that you can tribute this card and then target 2 of your banished zombie monsters except another copy of this card, and including a Shiranui monster, and special summon them in defense position, but negate their effects. And also you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombie monsters, which is not that big a deal because you're pretty much setting up for your copies of Spectral Sword to be able to go in for more synchro plays. We then play 3 copies of Unizombie. Unizombie is one of the best cards in the entire deck because it has the ability to target a face-up monster on the field and discard a card, and if you do, you can increase the level of that monster by 1, which is a great effect to get a card out of your hand because your zombies are going to really do a lot of work when they're in the graveyard. And this card also has a Foolish Burial effect that basically you can target a monster on the field and send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, increase the target's level by 1, which is a great effect just to have a discard and a Foolish Burial all tied up into one card to pretty much get your graveyard set up. This card is hands down one of the best zombie support cards we have ever gotten. We then play 2 copies of Doom King Baller Drop. Doom King Baller Drop is a really good 2-of in the deck that you probably could play 1 copy in this build, but I really like the second copy in this build because it has the ability that during the standby phase, if a card is face up in the field spell zone and this card is in your graveyard, then you can special summon this card in defense position, which is a really good effect. And then once per chain, when a zombie monster effect except another copy of Doom King Baller Drop activates its effect, except during the damage step, then you can quick effect apply one of these effects. But you can't apply the same effect of this card in the same turn, that you can either negate the effect or banish a monster from the field or the graveyard, which is a really, really good effect to be able to just get rid of cards on the field, to be able to just basically get rid of all those cards and negate effects. And this card is just really, really good because it keeps coming back over and over again. We then play a single copy of Changshi. Changshi is a good 1-of in the deck that has the ability that during the main phase, you can send a zombie monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, which is a great effect to combo with your copy of Glow Up Bloom to special summon this card to your side of the field so that you can basically send Baller Drop to the graveyard to be able to set the graveyard up while also getting you a monster on the field. But it also has the ability, if this card is banished, you can banish a zombie monster from your graveyard and then special summon this card, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field, which can also banish your Shiranui Shiranui monsters to get their effects to go off, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Banshee. Banshee is a good one-of to help us get to our copies of Zombie World, so this card is a definite one-of in the build. We then play a single copy of Al Ghul Mazrah. Al Ghul Mazrah is an insanely powerful card that if a zombie monsters you control would be destroyed by battle the back artifact, you can banish this card from your hand, or you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard instead. And if this card is banished from your hand or graveyard, then you can special summon this card in defense position, and then you can reduce its level by 1. So this card is great to combo with Spectral Sword, because if it does get banished by Spectral Sword's effect, it just comes back, which is really, really cool. I actually consider playing this card at more than 1 in this build because of that. We then play a single copy of Mad Mauler, because it's just a really good tuner in the deck that basically counts as Plague Spreader Zombie, and it also comes back over and over again, which is just really, really nice. We play a single copy of Glow Bloom. Glow Bloom is an insanely powerful card that if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can manage this card from the grave to add a level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to your hand, or if Zombie World is on the field, you can special summon the monster instead, which is really good to be able to summon out your copy of Chang-Chi, and then use Chang-Chi's effect to be able to send Baller Draw to the graveyard, which is really, really nice to set up for the next turn. We then play a single copy of Gozuki. Gozuki is really good because it's a walking Foolish Burial. And then finally, 3 copies of Mizuki. Mizuki is insanely good in this deck because you can banish this card from the grave to bring back any zombie monster back to your field, which is really, really awesome because you can bring back extremely powerful zombie synchro monsters that you might want back on the field. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is really good in this deck because it sends the exact zombie you need into the graveyard when you need it. We then play a single copy of Instant Fusion and 2 copies of Ready Fusion. These cards are really good in the deck because it helps you summon out your copy of Olfang into your side of the field, which gets you a tuner, so you can go into your copy of Needle Fiber and then start going full combo with this deck, which is really, really nice for just the cost of 1,000 life points and probably a normal summon of another zombie monster. We then play a single copy of Zombie Necronize. Necronize is insanely good in this deck because if a level 5 or higher zombie monster is on the field, you get to target 1 monster your opponent controls and you take control of it into the end phase, which is really good. And then during your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, then you can shuffle one of those banished zombie monsters into the deck. And if you do, you set this card back to the field but banish it when it leaves the field, getting 2 uses out of this card and recycling a card like a Mizuki or something like that that you need back in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Zombie Reborn. I almost played 3 copies of this card, but this card does take a little bit of setup to go off, so I ended up just playing 2 copies of it, but it's extremely powerful because it lets you target a zombie monster in either graveyard and banish a monster with the same name from your deck or extra deck, and if you do, you get to special summon the targeted monster to your field. And if this card is in your graveyard, then you can shuffle one of your banished zombie monsters into the deck, and if you do, set this card but banish it when it leaves the field. This card is really, really good in the deck because it sets up with your Shiranui monsters and banishes them as well, which comes up a lot in the deck, and it's just super helpful to be able to get your copies of your Shiranui monsters banished while also getting a Monster Reborn effect, which is just insanely good. We then play 3 copies of Zombie World. Zombie World is so good because it turns everything into a zombie, and neither player contributes summon monsters except zombie monsters. This card is really good because it also turns monsters in the graveyard into zombies as well, which is just absolutely insane with some of the other cards we're playing, like our 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization in this deck is absolutely insane. Combo with your copy of Zombie World because you can discard a card and then fusion summon a fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from either player's field, and it's a speed spell 4 that your opponent can't react to. And it's really cool when you have Zombie World on the field because you can use any 2 monsters to go into your copy of Nether Soul Dragon, which is just such a good boss monster. So that's it for the spell cards, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Shiranui Style Swallow Slash. This card is a really good card that's basically like an Icarus attack for zombies. It lets you tribute a zombie type monster and then target 2 cards on the field and destroy them, then banish a Shiranui monster from your deck, which is really good to combo with your copy of Spearmaster because it'll get you an additional pop, which is really nice. We then play 3 copies of Rivalry of Warlords so we can lock down the opponent with our copy of Zombie World, because this card says that each player can only control one type of each monster, and you send all the rest of the monsters on the field to the graveyard except for that one type for that one player, which is really cool because if you activate Zombie World and then flip this, then your opponent can't really summon unless they're playing zombies, which is really awesome because Zombie World makes everything a zombie, and this says you can only control one type, so they're controlling zombies, so they can't summon anything else. So this card comes in extremely handy in the deck, which is why we're playing it as a 3F. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Shiranui Sun Saiga. This card is a really good card in the deck that has the ability. It takes a zombie tuner plus a zombie non-tuner to summon this card, and if this card is special summon, you can return any number of your zombie synchro monsters that are banished or in your graveyard to your extra deck, and then you can destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of the cards returned. And if a zombie monsters you control would be destroyed by battle by card effect, then you can banish a Shiranui monster from your grave instead, which is a crazy good effect. This card helps you go in for game all the time, and it's just a really good card. We then play a single copy of Shiranui Shogun Saiga. Shogun Saiga is a really good one of in the deck. I used to play 2 copies of this card, and I want to play 2, but I can't find the room for it. So if you guys want to cut anything, I would definitely play a second copy of this card. But for now, this card has the ability, if this card is special summon, you can banish the zombie type monster from your graveyard, and this card gains attack equal to the banished monster's original attack until the end phase of this turn. And if this card in the field is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, then you can target one of your banished zombie type monsters with 0 defense and return it to the graveyard, which sets up your copy of Spectral Sword so you can go in for Sun Saga, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Zombie Dragon Lord. This card is super easy to summon in the deck and just a really powerhouse monster for this build. It's a super cool card that has the ability that during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target a zombie monster in your graveyard except another copy of this card and special summon it. And if this card is in the graveyard, then you can banish a zombie monster that you control and special summon this card, and you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. We then play a single copy of the Skeletal Dragon Felgrand. This card is really neat in the deck as a one-of, and it just is a really good card that if this card is special summon, you can target a monster that your opponent controls or in the graveyard and just banish it, which is really good. I really wish it didn't target, but even though it does target, it still banishes the card, which is extremely powerful. And if a monster is special summoned from either player's graveyard while this card is on the field, then you can target one other face-up monster on the field and negate its effects until the end phase of the turn, which comes up very handy with cards like Doom King Baller Drop, bringing themselves back during the opponent's turn to be able to negate a monster's effect, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of the Chaos Ruler, which is a really good card to help us look at the top 5 of the deck, grab a light or dark monster, and then send the rest to the graveyard. But basically what we're really looking for this card is to send those other 4 cards to the graveyard, not getting the 1, which is really nice because it sets up the grave. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Zombie Dragon. This card is a really good card in the extra deck, has the ability to gain 100 attack and defense for each zombie monster on the field or in the graveyards, and then while another zombie monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon a zombie monster from either player's graveyard to your field, which is a really insane effect to be able to bring back any zombie monster that you want to the field. And since we're playing Red Eyes Zombie Dragon, we're going to be playing a single copy of Archfiend Zombie Skull as well beside it. Wouldn't it be so cool if we could get a Black Skull Zombie Dragon, like with these 2 cards? That'd be just awesome. I really look forward to them doing that one day. But this card takes a Plague Spreader Zombie plus 2 non-tuner zombie monsters, but you can actually summon it off your Spectral Sword by just banishing a copy of itself and a level 4 from the graveyard, which is the main way we're going to summon this card. But this card has the ability that has a blanket effect that zombie monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is just absolutely insane. We then play a single copy of Immortal Dragon, which is absolutely a great card in the deck. During your main phase, you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the level difference between the original levels of that monster and this card, which is really good to be able to level manipulate this card to get it to the exact level that you want it. And while, when your zombie monster is destroyed by battle, while this card's in the graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So this card is really neat because it can come back over and over again, and it's also a tuner. We then play play a single copy of Formula Synchron. Formula Synchron just comes up because you can actually summon it off your copy of Needle Fiber, so this card is really good just to get you an additional draw card. We then play a single copy of Shiranui Skill Saga Supremacy. This card is a good one-of in the deck. You don't really need any more than a single copy because it has the ability that synchro monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, that are in fire monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. And then during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target one of your banished zombie synchro monsters and special summon it to a zone this card points to, which is pretty good to be able to get those cards back. One copy of Vampire Sucker because it goes in every single zombie deck, and it's just really, really good because it lets you draw cards. One copy of Crystron Needle Fiber because this card comes in very, very handy to get cards like Glow Bloom on the field that then you can link summon into your copies of other cards, while also being able to tag this card out for your copy of Formula Synchron to be able to get you additional plays, which is really, really nice. We then play a single copy of the Nether Soul Dragon because it's a great super poly target that can generate tokens, so it's a great one-of in the deck. One copy of Starving Venom. Starving Venom is really good because you can actually use dark monsters to summon this card by using super poly and your opponent's monsters. And finally, a single copy of Allvain. Allvain is a really good instant fusion and ready fusion target to be able to get you a tuner on your field to be able to synchro summon or go for your copy of Needle Fiber, which is really, really good. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a super fun deck to be able to play around with. If you guys have never played with Shiranui before, you definitely should, because it makes great use of the Zombie World package, and it's just a really, really fun deck to see what kind of zombie synchro monsters you can actually summon to the field. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely hit that bell in there so you can come part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.